Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I've made this video 3 times now. And for whatever reason, the technology is really not cooperating with me. The video will shut off halfway through. So I'm going to try and abbreviate this and get you something that can be helpful. The main thing is in book 13, this story changes radically, and Poseidon becomes a player. And Poseidon has been against the Greeks, and now he's for the Greeks. He has pity on the Greeks. And so this book, the Iliad, this story, becomes a battle between the 2 brothers, the sons of Cronus. And what you have is that, as long as Poseidon is helping, that the Greeks are winning. But Zeus isn't going to tolerate that. Remember, Zeus has already said to all the gods that they cannot defy him by getting involved. While the Greeks are kind of making their comeback and having the second wind, you have heroes step up who are relatively unknown. Idomeneus and Antilochus, and also Meriones. These are 3 people who are repeatedly mentioned from books 13 to 18. And, Antilochus is Nestor's son. Nestor was the counselor, the old guy who he wants to be young again. He wishes he could fight, and kind of shames all the younger soldiers for not fighting harder. His son Antilochus is a major factor in these books. Menelaus too steps up. Remember, Agamemnon is hurt, Odysseus is hurt, Diomedes is hurt. All these heroes are hurt, and so the second wave has to step up. And basically, what happens is the Trojans are pushed away from the ships temporarily. You're going to see the tide just keep turning back and forth and back and forth. Ajax is really the most endearing hero in this book so far. Achilles has totally sat on the sidelines. Patroclus is also very appealing, and you'll see why. Book 14, the wounded kings, we're talking about Odysseus and Agamemnon and company. They have this plan that basically, if they make an appearance, that they'll rally the troops. But it doesn't keep the Trojans off. And the Trojans are pushing in, and the end seems to be near. Agamemnon's kind of given up. And Hera decides that she has to get actively involved. And remember, she's risking everything. She's risking her eternal existence by defying Zeus. But what she does, okay, this is the token bedroom scene, okay? This is, she wants to distract her husband by loving him, okay? And so it's comical too. And it's one of those domestic Olympus scenes. It's just funny that the gods are so much a reflection of human beings, just at a much grander scale, right? And so Hera does this with the help of the god Sleep. And as a result, Zeus is put to sleep, and Poseidon is able to push with the Greeks and basically get everybody to fight harder. And the gods are constantly appearing in disguise on the battlefield. But mortals always kind of figure it out. And so in book 14, you have this huge turning point. Hector goes down. And this happens because he's fighting Ajax. Okay, whenever Hector and Ajax are together, it's oil and water, and they really go at each other. They can't. Ajax is stronger, but Hector is maybe smarter. But in the end, Ajax gets him with a rock under his neck, and he goes down, and he's down for the count. He almost is dead. And as a result, the tide really does turn. And what's really interesting is the narrator then shifts and talks to the muses, just like he did at the very beginning of this story. He talks to the muses who give inspiration, and what he does is he says, okay, tell me now about all the victories that the Greeks had at this time and all the spoils that were collected. Okay? And so then we have book 15, and the Trojans have been kicked out of the palisade, and basically, Zeus then wakes up. He's very angry at Hera, and he prophesies. First of all, he says, nope, the Greeks are going to be punished some more. And at the same time, he prophesies and says, okay, this is what's going to happen. and Patroclus is the key figure, Achilles' best friend. And so Zeus drives the Greeks back. Athena, because Poseidon basically is pushed out of the war, Zeus does the power play, even though Poseidon is willing to confront his brother much more than anybody else. He's still not as strong, and he gives in, and he leaves, goes into the ocean. And Athena then steps up. Okay, remember, Athena has a special relationship with Zeus. Athena doesn't have a mother. Came straight out of Zeus's head. And so you have this ongoing conflict among the gods, right? Well, Hector comes back, and that's what happens as a result of Poseidon being gone. Hector comes back, and the tide turns. The Trojans are pushing toward the ships, and at that point, Patroclus, he is tending to a sick soldier and basically says, I gotta go talk to Achilles and plead with him. Through it all, Ajax is kind of the last bulwark, the last defense, the last line of defense, and he's incredible. Basically, he's a giant among men, and he's hopping from ship to ship because, remember, Hector is bent on burning these ships to, cinders and doesn't want the Greeks to live at all. And so Ajax is hopping from ship to ship supernaturally, and this is a larger-than-life episode here. And then we have book 16. So we know that the fires are coming, that Hector is calling for fire to burn the ships. And on page 308, you finally have this happen, where one of the ships is set on fire, and it's really foreboding and foreshadowing. At that moment, Achilles knows, he hears what's going on around him. Patroclus arrives, pleads with him, and as a result, Achilles gives in a little bit and says, okay, here's what you do. Take my armor, you can go out and lead our troops, and their troops were called the Myrmidons. The Myrmidons were actual mythical figures. They were ants who were turned into this massive great army, and Patroclus was one of the Myrmidons. So, Patroclus will wear the armor. He leads out the armies, and the tide turns again, and the Trojans are pushed out. And what you see is the Greek leaders then are the new leaders, Idomeneus and Meriones. They're all killing people right and left. Each Greek leader kills his man. And then Patroclus maybe pushes too far. He's just in a frenzy, and he's got huge success because of the gods that are on his side. And he kills Sarpedon, who is Zeus's own son. But Zeus knew this was going to happen, and he sacrificed Sarpedon because he sees it as all a part of the symphony he is writing. This is just one movement. And so, Zeus's son is killed, Sarpedon's killed. He was mentioned earlier. We talked about him. He believes in nobility. He believes that because he has enjoyed more in life, that he has to risk more in war. And his friend Glaucus then wants to get revenge for his death and pushes Hector to get revenge and to kill Patroclus. And you know where this is going. Patroclus, he gets overextended. He leads troops even to the walls of Troy. Just a minute ago, we were at the ships and they were doomed. But now they're back at the walls of Troy. But he's kind of isolated. He's surrounded. And then people start getting lucky hits on him because of the gods. And the big one is Apollo blows his armor off. Okay, so he's standing there basically naked, and he has no chance. And this is, again, it's Zeus's will. He has allowed Apollo to do this, but it just seems so unfair because Patroclus is such a good guy. Now, this idea of nakedness in wartime, you have this with Achilles again. Achilles has sent out his armor, and the armor then is stripped off by Hector and taken. Okay, and so Achilles has no armor to even fight if he wanted to. And so this nakedness in battle, that's a problem. Okay, and so we're nearing kind of the climax, the mini climax here, as Patroclus then is dead, and the narrator actually speaks to him before he dies. Okay, and that's a really interesting thing because we have this extra-diegetical and intra-diegetical narrative that we're talking about in our module for this unit this week. And so just know that this is where the narrator actually steps into the story and is communicating with one of the characters. And so we know that Patroclus is doomed. And Apollo, again, he blows his armor off, and that's the end of that. But afterwards, there is a battle over his body. And that's how this section is going to end. Because, Patroclus is lying there on the ground. Menelaus sees him and is totally torn apart because he realizes this whole war is because of Menelaus and his wife Helen. And Patroclus then is the consequence. And he's such a good guy, and he shouldn't have had to die. Shouldn't have had to die. So, there are gods on both sides meddling. They're appearing in disguise. They're giving advice. And finally, Menelaus, he says, we got to get Achilles. And this is maybe the way to get Achilles into the battle. And so he sends the son of Nestor to be the messenger. Antilochus is the name. And remember, we mentioned he was a hero, a budding hero that steps up. So Antilochus goes to Achilles. And when he arrives in Book 18, Achilles has had premonitions. So visions and oracles and prophecies, so important in Greek mythology. It's kind of their way of foreshadowing. Achilles already knows what's coming, but he's so devastated that, it's like this unearthly cry going out through the camp, and everybody knows what's going on. And even his mother feels his pain. His mother isn't anywhere near there. She's Thetis. Remember, Thetis feels his pain and gets involved. And she comes to him, and then ultimately she says, okay, you can't go out and fight naked, so I'm going to go get you armor from Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the lame god. Okay, terrible story of how he was made lame and basically lots of bad stuff happened to him. But he was very gifted, and he made everything for the gods in his massive forge. There's even a reference in there. It's almost like he has created robots. I guess, female robots made of gold to serve in his palace. It's very interesting the way it's described. And probably it's just the translation, but I would like to go read the original. And so basically, the end of Book 18 is going to Hephaestus. Thetis goes to Hephaestus and appeals to him to make the armor. And she actually helped him after he had his fall, which basically almost killed him. And that's, again, another myth for another time. But the end of this book then is called an ekphrasis. Ekphrasis is when in literature you're describing artwork. And so the artwork that is being described in great detail is the shield that is being made for Achilles, the new shield. And it basically represents the universe. It's got 2 cities on it. It's got all kinds of pastoral scenes like, valleys and herds and shepherds. But it's incredible, the detail. It's even like there's a story going on in his shield. It's like one of the Harry Potter paintings that's constantly moving, or the newspapers where it's constantly moving. And that's what I picture. If they did a great CGI movie of this, it would be Achilles' shield actually still, it would be a moving scene. It would be that incredible. So anyway, what I've tried to do here is give you as much as I could. Books 19 to 24 are also very complicated, but hopefully you can see where this is headed. I hope you'll have enough to take your quiz. If you don't watch these videos before the quiz, I hope that you're able to watch them sometime and that it helps you understand what you've read. Thank you for listening. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow night.